Before we start, you should know that what you're about to hear is very serious. The following is just for learning and fun. This is the exact words from the real court case about Sean Diddy Combs as told by trusted news sources. Money helper who worked for him for 15 years suddenly turned against him after taking care of all his money, and how could the messy web of secret bank accounts and weird money transfers that Thomas Winters just told everyone about become the money proof that the lawyers have been looking for in a shocking moment that has made everyone in both the music and money worlds very surprised. Thomas Winters, who is Diddy's main money helper and accountant from 2008 until late 2023, has come to court with thousands of pages of money records that the lawyers are calling the money trail that connects everything for more than 15 years. Winters was the person who built Diddy's complicated money setup, taking care of everything from real business deals to what he now says was a sneaky system made to hide bad payments and possible proof he didn't show up as an angry worker who wanted revenge. He didn't come as part of a deal to save himself. Winters came as a money expert who had reached a point where he couldn't do the right thing anymore, carrying with him very organized papers of money moves that match up with dates and events that are very important to the prosecution's timeline. I built my job on keeping money secrets and being loyal to clients. Winter said his professional way of acting stayed the same even though what he was saying was very serious. But there's an important line between keeping client secrets and being part of what I came to see as a pattern of money moves made to quiet victims and hide proof. The decision to keep papers and finally testify wasn't made quickly, according to people close to the case. Winters began quietly writing down concerning money patterns in 2018. When he noticed payments that happened again and again, that matched with claimed incidents as claims against Diddy grew and other witnesses came forward. Winters called federal investigators with information about a money system that he had helped create, but had grown more and more worried about a system that he now describes as made to make sure people followed rules through money control and force. If you're finding this information helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more breaking news in this ongoing case. The federal courtroom feeling was charged with tension as Thomas Winters was sworn, and the overhead lights seemed to highlight his perfect appearance, nice suit, precise haircut, and the calm way of acting of someone used to high-stakes money meetings. Diddy, sitting at the defense table, kept his typical calm expression, though careful watchers noticed his hand getting tighter around a pen as Winters walked up to the witness stand. Nobody had a money testimony to become the day's main point. The room was tense, eyes focused on the witness stand, until Winters placed a shiny laptop and several external hard drives on the table beside him. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Even the judge leaned forward with more interest. No announcement, no dramatic statement, just Winters calmly explaining that the devices had complete money records covering 15 years with special focus on certain repeating payment patterns that match up with dates of claimed incidents. Until that moment, Winters had been one of Diddy's most trusted helpers, behind-the-scenes builder of his money empire. But something had changed. Maybe it was the growing testimony from victims. Maybe it was the understanding that money records he had managed could back up their stories. Maybe it was his growing right and wrong concerns about the patterns he had written down. Whatever it was, Winters was done keeping the money machinery behind Diddy's empire secret. Wasn't taking the stand as a celebrity friend. He wasn't there for attention. He was there as a money expert who had managed complicated accounts and finally recognized concerning patterns in how money flowed to quiet accusations and create dependence. And when he began to speak, the courtroom wasn't ready for the step-by-step detailed money story that connected directly to the timeline of claimed behavior. Because what Winters told everyone about the offshore accounts, shell companies, and carefully structured payments wasn't just complicated money moves. It was a written paper trail, the tale that prosecutors claimed showed knowing of guilt, intent to quiet victims, and a planned approach to using money leverage as both reward and punishment. It started like any other day of the trial. The room buzzed with low conversations. The press hunched in their set-aside rows and lawyers whispered plans as whispered plans. They waited for what was listed simply as financial witness on the schedule, but when the bailiff announced Thomas Winters, the room changed. You could hear a pin drop. Some people knew the name right away from business magazines. Others wondered about why he mattered. But the way Winters walked confidently to the stand, his expression professionally calm, yet determined, told everyone this wasn't going to be routine testimony. The judge raised an eyebrow, and Diddy, who had been showing confidence throughout the proceedings, suddenly sat up, straighter, his attention laser-focused on his former. Money helper Winters took the oath. No eye contact with the defense table. He didn't even look in Diddy's direction. I understand how important money papers are. In these proceedings, Winters began, I worked as Mr. Combs' main money helper from 2008 until November 2023. I was responsible for managing his personal money business, deals, investments, and the overall money structure of his various companies. The judge allowed him to continue. And from that moment on, the entire trial shifted, because what Winters was about to say wasn't guessing, it wasn't rumours, it was money papers that created a precise timeline connecting money to claimed criminal activity. When asked to explain his job, Winters gave unexpected insight into the money machinery behind Diddy's empire. My official title was main money helper. But in practice, I watched over a team of 23 money experts, including accountants, investment managers, tax specialists, and rule-following officers. I had signing authority on over 40 accounts across 12 money institutions. I set up and kept the corporate structure for about 30 entities covering multiple countries, including the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore, and Luxembourg. The prosecutor approached smartly. Mr. Winters, can you tell us what made you leave your job after 15 years and why you've chosen to testify today? Winters looked directly at the jury. I left because I could no longer make my work ethics match with certain patterns of money activity I was being told to help with, and I'm testifying because these money records directly back up the timeline and claims made by other witnesses in these proceedings. Diddy's legal team right away objected, arguing that money records were protected by both attorney-client privilege and money secrecy laws. But the judge, after reviewing relevant precedents, ruled that money records possibly connected to criminal activity were not protected by such privileges. I've brought complete papers, Winters said, pointing to his laptop and external drives. These contain transaction records, wire transfers, corporate formation documents, and most importantly, a forensic money analysis matching payment patterns with dates that have come up as important in testimony from other witnesses. I've spent my career managing complicated money structures for high net worth individuals, he said. I understand the difference between legitimate tax planning and money activity designed to hide possibly problematic payments. He turned slightly toward the jury. Professional way of acting, unwavering. What I watched went beyond standard wealth management practice. Winters told the courtroom that it started like many concerning money patterns with structures that seemed to have legitimate business purposes. It came through seemingly routine money management before it way he explained it. It was supposed to be standard celebrity wealth management, normal asset protection, and tax planning. I'd been brought in for my expertise with entertainment industry finances, so I didn't right away question the more and more complicated structure we were building. But the moment Winters began noticing consistent patterns in how certain types of payments were handled, he became more and more concerned. The overall money structure included standard elements that would be familiar to any high net worth individual investment entities, licensing companies, intellectual property, holding companies. The red flags came up in a separate structure that worked parallel to the legitimate business operations. This secondary structure included a network of shell companies with nominee directors' offshore accounts with specific routing protocols and a planned approach to what internal papers referred to as PR management payments. The second I raised questions about the need for this parallel structure. It was told it was for privacy management and lawsuit reduction. That should have been the first red flag. They said it was for protecting assets from silly lawsuits, which is legitimate, but it felt like something else, like a system made specifically to route certain types of payments through channels that would be difficult to trace. He was responsible for the entire money setup. The work environment became more and more compartmentalized. There were clear instructions, kens, about which team members could access certain accounts and transaction records. It felt like information was being purposely divided to prevent anyone from seeing the complete picture. Winter said that after about 3 years in his job, he began noticing disturbing patterns. It happened most noticeably following what internal communications referred to as management situations. I would receive urgent instructions to process wire transfers to previously sleeping entities, often followed by the creation of new shell companies. When I asked about the nature of these transactions for proper accounting and classification, I was told they were talent management expenses or brand protection costs eventually. I was told to classify these simply as executive discretionary expenditures with no further papers. Required the courtroom stayed silent as Winters opened his laptop and put a spreadsheet onto the courtroom screens. I began tracking these payments. Privately, dates, amounts, routing, pathways, and eventual recipients were traceable over time. I noticed these payments followed a distinct pattern. He showed a timeline covering 2010 to 2023. You'll note important clusters of payments following specific dates. For example, on March 17, 2016, there was an unclaimed incident involving a female artist at Mr. Combs' Miami house. Within 48 hours, there were 7 wire transfers totaling $1.8 million, routed through 3 different countries before reaching what appeared to be a law firm's client trust account. 2 days later, a new NDA was signed, which I was asked to pay for from a separate account set aside for talent contract management. Winters paused, keeping his professional calm. As a money expert, I'm trained to see patterns. This wasn't isolated. This was planned. He continued, showing money records that proved a consistent way of doing things. Unusual payment patterns following claimed incidents, the creation of new corporate entities right after big payments, and most concerning, what appeared to be regular payments to the same recipients that would suddenly stop if the individuals made any public statements about Diddy. The most important revelation came when Winters showed records from 2018 to 2022. During this period, I found 37 times where big payments were made to individuals following events that have now been described in witness testimony. In each case, the payment structure was nearly identical. Initial, large payment routed through multiple countries, followed by smaller, regular payments that continued until specific conditions were met or broken. The total amount given out through this system during my time was more than $240 million. Winter, said he, continued writing down these patterns while keeping his professional responsibilities, understanding that direct questions would likely result in his replacement instead. What he found through careful forensic accounting showed a sophisticated system of money control and watching. There were detailed protocols for handling what internal documents called priority management situations. There's some involving immediate cash payments delivered by security personnel, some routed through elaborate offshore structures. There were others designated as conditional support arrangements that required regular verification of compliance with what appeared to be non-disclosure terms. He paused, keeping his professional way of acting while organizing next exhibits. I began to recognize that these weren't just isolated money transactions. This was a system of money control. Winters continued, his voice steady and step by step. After identifying these patterns, I conducted a forensic analysis matching payment dates with public events and internal and communications. There was a consistent sequence: incident, urgent payment authorization, legal papers, then ongoing smaller payments that appeared conditional on continued silence. He thought it might be coincidental until he received a directive in 2019 that removed any doubt. It was an email thread discussing a PR vulnerability that needed money management. The communications clearly discussed using the payment structure to make sure continued compliance. The email contained a spreadsheet tracking individuals who had received payments with color coding, indicating their reliability status. Those marked in green continued to receive regular payments. Those in yellow had payments paused pending compliance verification. Those in red had payments terminated with notes indicating breach of terms or requiring additional management measures. Winters testified that this papers changed his Vanoas in Redo. Understanding of the money system he had helped build, I realised I wasn't just managing legitimate business finances. I was running what appeared to be a sophisticated system of money incentives and penalties designed to ensure silence in his final years, managing Diddy's finances. He watched. Increasing sophistication in how the system operated. The structure became more complex with additional layers of entities and countries. Payment pathways were regularly modified. New technologies, including cryptocurrency and privacy-focused money tools, were added. The clear intent was to create increasing distance between Mr. Combens and the eventual recipients. While maintaining effective control, he said, that's when his right and wrong concerns intensified. I'd receive urgent calls about situation management requiring immediate money action. I kept professional execution of my duties. Then gradually I began seeing media reports or legal filings that matched exactly with these money activities. Names that appeared in priority payment directives would later come up in sealed legal settlements. I knew what it was. It was a system of money leverage being used to manage potential legal and reputation threats, and so for years Winters said nothing while privately writing down the patterns he performed his professional duties, kept the money infrastructure focused on the legitimate aspects of Diddy's business empire. But every time I helped another priority management transaction, I wrote it down privately, while growing more and more concerned about the right and wrong implications of the system I was keeping. He looked around the courtroom. He didn't just build a music empire. He created a sophisticated money infrastructure designed to keep control through both money incentives and consequences. And that, Winter said, was what finally made me preserve papers and ultimately provide testimony. Winters paused, looked at the jury and continued with his step-by-step presentation. It wasn't just the payment patterns. Those were just the most visible aspect. He said from that point forward, he began a comprehensive forensic analysis of the entire money structure. He explained that his concerns escalated with specific instructions. He received new offshore structures with more and more obscure beneficial ownership. When he raised questions about compliance with international banking regulations, things would shift in his authority. I'd express concerns about potential money regulations on Monday, and by Thursday, find certain accounts moved under different signatories or new entities created outside my direct oversight. He said this didn't happen once or twice. It became a recognizable pattern. The system didn't require clear directives about silencing people. The money structure itself accomplished that goal. Regular payments created dependency. Sudden termination of those payments sent clear messages. The offshore structure provided both distance and deniability, while maintaining effective control over people's money, stability, and consequently their silence. Winter's voice stayed steady, but took increased resolve. I kept my job for several years after identifying these patterns. I convinced myself that I was simply performing standard money management, but then the patterns became impossible to ignore, particularly as claims began to surface publicly. He said his perspective evolved gradually as he conducted deeper forensic analysis. Then I began cross-referencing payment recipients with individuals mentioned in sealed legal settlements. The correlation was nearly perfect. Every person who had received a settlement also appeared in the conditional payment tracking system with regular monitoring of their compliance with non-disclosure terms. He described feeling a growing right and wrong conflict. I realized that the money system I had helped build and maintain wasn't just managing wealth. It was possibly enabling a pattern of behavior by providing both the means to silence people and the money monitoring to ensure that silence continued. Winters said he spent months reviewing all the papers he had preserved, the transaction records, the communication patterns, the correlation with claimed incidents and subsequent legal settlements. It became more and more clear that this was standard money management, but rather a sophisticated system with a specific purpose to use money means to ensure silence and compliance. He said the breaking point wasn't fear, but professional ethics. I realized that continuing in my job made me possibly complicit in money activities that appeared designed specifically to silence victims and hide proof of potential crimes. He told the court he resigned in November 2023, After securing copies of relevant money records, I submitted my resignation, citing irreconcilable professional ethical concerns. I declined the substantial money incentives offered to extend my contract. I preserved only papers that I believed might be relevant to establishing the patterns I had observed transactions that correlated with claimed incidents and the subsequent management of individuals through money means. He looked at the jury. I wasn't just a money manager. Handling routine transactions, I had unknowingly become the administrator of a system designed to use money leverage to ensure silence. Then he looked briefly toward the defense table and the money records I provided establish a clear timeline connecting payments to claimed incidents with a planned approach to creating money dependence as a means of control, as Winters showed a comprehensive timeline correlating money transactions with dates of claimed incidents. Diddy's calm facade finally cracked. Court watchers reported that he began whispering urgently to his legal team. His typically controlled expression replaced with visible panic, as the money evidence, step by step, connected money to motive me. From someone who had designed their own money system, Winters didn't engage with the press when he exited. He didn't make statements, didn't acknowledge cameras. He walked out of the courthouse with the same professional dignity with which he had entered, though watchers noted the visible relief of someone who had finally reconciled their professional actions with their ethical principles. When asked later by reporters if he feared professional repercussions, he reportedly responded, "In money management, our highest obligation is integrity, sometimes that requires difficult decisions." But outside the courtroom, the impact was only beginning to register. Money regulators were undoubtedly reviewing the evidence for potential additional investigations. Legal analysts highlighted the devastating effect of money records that directly correlated with claimed criminal activity, industries say. Figures with connections to Diddy issued carefully worded statements expressing shock and concern about the money revelations behind closed doors. Money professionals analyzed the implications of the sophisticated offshore structure that had been exposed. Tax authorities likely began examining potential regulatory violations, and while many attempted to distance themselves from the case, social media was already connecting the money evidence to the broader pattern of claimed behavior. Previous testimony was being re-evaluated in light of the money timeline Winters had established. Victims whose stories had been questioned now had backing through documented money transactions, and most importantly, the step-by-step approach to using money as both reward and punishment itself, carefully written down by Winters, was being recognized as powerful evidence of consciousness of guilt. The public wasn't just shocked by the money revelations, they were processing a new understanding of how money can be weaponized to silence victims and hide evidence that behind the glamorous facade of entertainment, success might lie sophisticated money systems specifically designed to ensure that certain stories never reached the public. The case against Diddy had changed from claims to documented money evidence that connected money directly to claimed criminal activity. And as this trial continues to develop, we'll bring you the most comprehensive updates available. If you found this report informative, please like and subscribe to our channel, because sometimes the most damning evidence isn't found in dramatic testimony, but in the cold, hard numbers that reveal exactly how silence was purchased and maintained.